Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. We recently discussed Michael Ouweleen's sit-down interview with Variety and him speaking on the future of Cartoon Network and how the plan seems to be to go back to what made Cartoon Network great in the 2000s and early 2010s, which is high-quality animated content for all ages. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll leave a card above to that because there's a lot of interesting stuff that he says in there. One of the things that I wanted to discuss coming out of this interview, and honestly for a while now, I've wanted to discuss what Tom Ascheim's vision for Cartoon Network was, and I feel like after seeing this interview and seeing the direction that Cartoon Network is turning into, or at least they're aiming for, we kind of have a clear picture as to what Tom Ascheim's vision for the channel was, and I feel like it's a little bit different than what the narrative was at the time, and I'll dive into what I mean by this in a little bit. But first and foremost, Tom Ascheim, as we all know, he came on to Cartoon Network replacing Christina Miller after, we could argue, I wouldn't even say it's an argument at this point, Christina Miller's era of Cartoon Network was probably one of the worst points in Cartoon Network's history, and we're still seeing the effects of that because we haven't exactly turned things around yet, because there's only like 2 or 3 shows on the channel still, so we need to start to turn that around. But Tom Ascheim had a big task at hand. He had to turn Cartoon Network around from being at its worst point it's ever been to being a kids animated juggernaut again, like it was in the early 2010s and all throughout the 2000s. And it seems like, from what we can tell in the comments from the interview, Tom Ascheim's plan was to make Cartoon Network into the new Disney. I'm not saying this out of left field. This is actually something that Michael Ouweleen stated in that interview with Variety. He said the plan was for Cartoon Network to try to combat Disney. Disney has a preschool programming in Disney Junior. Disney has, its main channel being the Disney Channel with live action content on there. Disney has Disney XD, which is more so their animated channel. Well, Cartoon Network under Tom Ascheim's vision had Cartoonito as a major component on Cartoon Network to be a direct competitor to Disney Junior and Nick Jr. as well. Obviously, Cartoon Network didn't have a live action component, but we all know that Tom Ascheim announced that going forward, Cartoon Network was going to start to produce some live action content to air on the channel to be a direct competitor to the main channel for Disney Channel, where they premiere a lot of live action content. Then they have the Cartoon Network main channel, which has animated content, obviously, which is a direct competitor to Disney XD. Tom Ascheim's vision for Cartoon Network was to transform it from being an animation network to being this kids entertainment juggernaut to take on Disney with a preschool component, a young kids component, and maybe even a little bit of a teenage component as well. And look, I get it. You want to take on Disney, one of the big players in the kids TV space, along with Nickelodeon. I don't necessarily think that would have been a good plan. I mean, we already started to see the downfall of Cartoonito, because off the top of my head, I don't exactly remember how many hours it was on the air per week, but I remember we saw a significant cut multiple times early this year and at the end of last year to Cartoonito, where now it ends at 11 a.m., where I believe before it was ending at 2 p.m. during the day. It's lost a significant amount of airtime because, in all honesty, I feel like the plans of transforming Cartoon Network from an animation channel to a direct competitor to Disney's brand, their kids brand, in the live action side of things, the preschool side of things, and the animation side of things, I feel like it's a bit too ambitious. And I don't think it was a good idea, because that's not what Cartoon Network is. That's what it never strived to be. The thing is as well, which I find rather interesting about all this, is Tom Ascheim is in a weird place in Cartoon Network's history. We had the 4 presidents prior to him, and a while ago I made a series of videos that were, breaking down the 4 presidents, their legacy, and what they did for the channel at the time. If I were to make a sequel to that with Tom Ascheim, which maybe at some point I will, I really don't know how to define his era. It was so short that, we got these announcements of some shows that would be coming in the future. We have yet to see any of those series, and he's not even at the channel anymore. He's gone. And now we know that behind the scenes, it seems like the plan was to make Cartoon Network into this direct competitor to Disney, which I don't think is a good idea. That's not Cartoon Network at that point. You're completely stripping away the identity of Cartoon Network at that point. Cartoon Network, like I've said multiple times over the past few weeks and the past few months, it has always been a high quality animation network. It's gone away from that in recent times, really dumbing down things, if I'm being honest, with a lot of the series they've been premiering, and not to say that these series are bad, but there's not many layers and elements to them. Like I said in the past, Cartoon Network back in the 2000s had series that had, yes, it was a main demographic or target audience of kids ages 6 to 11, but they had all these deeper themes in them that would attract older audiences, and Cartoon Network hasn't had that for a while. So I feel like to then transform the network into this big juggernaut to compete with Disney is not only too ambitious, but it's not Cartoon Network at that point. You're stripping away the identity of the channel to transform it into something that it's not. And obviously, we're never really going to see the after effects or how this would have went down, because Tom Ascheim is gone and Michael Ouweleen is the new president of Cartoon Network, and from the comments that he's made publicly, he's going to try to make Cartoon Network into the big animation juggernaut that it used to be back in the 2000s and even the early 2010s. So we're never going to see Tom Ascheim's version of Cartoon Network, which for better or for worse is up for debate. But in my opinion, from the outside looking in, taking this all at face value, if Cartoon Network is going to transform from an animation network to this big Disney competitor, I don't think it would have gone over well. I really don't, because look, the thing is as well that I feel like is different from Cartoon Network versus Disney is Disney has 3 separate channels. There's Disney Junior, Disney XD, and Disney Channel. I understand that Disney Junior, I believe, has some sort of component on the main Disney Channel, but they're 3 separate entities. When on Cartoon Network side of things, it's one channel where you were trying to put all of this into one channel, all of this content, where I feel like at that point, it's just going to become a mess. It's going to be like Cartoonito's on from, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., then Cartoon Network's on for, whatever amount of time from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., I think it was. But then if you have a live action component in there as well, does that then mean that we're only going to get like 2 hours of animated content a day for the Cartoon Network demographic? I mean, it just seems like too much. It seems like it was too ambitious of an idea. I get it. I get the thought process behind it. Not to say that it's a, horrible or crazy idea, because I get it. I get that you want to compete with Disney. I get it. But I don't think that's what Cartoon Network was. It was never what it was striving to be. And I feel like overall, things probably would have ended badly here. And again, this is all speculation because we're never going to see the actual effects of this. We're never going to see any of these shows on the air in the way that Tom Ascheim had envisioned it. But all in all, I just find this really interesting to see that, Tom Ascheim right now, I would say in the Cartoon Network fan base is looked at fondly. But if this, hypothetically speaking, the merger never happened with Discovery and we did go down this path, I do wonder if he would be viewed as the next Christina Miller or the next Stu Snyder. Because Stu Snyder, I've said this before, I liked Stu Snyder as president. I understand that he brought live action to Cartoon Network, but he had so many good animated series come out that he greenlit that I feel like the live action component that he had kind of overtakes that. And I don't think that's fair to him. I feel like I made videos on this in the past. I feel like he really wasn't a bad Cartoon Network president, but I wonder how Tom Ascheim would have been viewed if all of this actually happened and all of this went through and we got to see the Disney version of Cartoon Network. Because in my opinion, I don't think it would have gone over well. And again, we'll never know for sure, but I just think this is all really interesting. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below how you guys feel about all this. How would you have liked it to see Cartoon Network become a main competitor to Disney, really moving away from being a strictly animated only network to be a live action, animated, and preschool network for kids of all ages? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.